Get ready for such a fun episode that has a lot of value packed in. At one point, I felt like I was like going to jump out of my chair because I loved my guest's stories that he told today about how local businesses are creating memorable experiences, becoming more profitable, and doing so with barely spending that much more money or an investment in doing it. So you're going to love my guest, Vance Morris, today. And Vance is a former Disney World executive. He has a very rich history in working in a lot of different businesses, which you'll hear a little bit today, just the depth of his knowledge and experience. And I just feel so honored to have him on the show today to share some of these tips and some frameworks and really things that you could implement today to have a significant impact on your store. It seriously was, I always have so much fun talking to Vance. And when we email and I'm like, this is going to be a really fun episode. And he did not disappoint. So you're going to love it too. Before we dive in, here's a little bit more about my guest. Vance Morris helps business owners get, serve, and keep clients for life through creating experiences and response-required marketing. He's a former birth control factory security guard turned Disney leader, turned bankrupt out of work executive, turned carpet cleaner, turned successful entrepreneur. Remember, I said he's done a lot, who has incredible experiences and stories that you can learn from and implement right away. You can learn more about Vance at vancemorris.com. And Vance and I are doing an event together in October at Disney World, little sneak peek. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in today's episode too. Towards the end, I hope that you can tune in and listen to what's going to be happening there as well. But very excited for that event. You can be in person with Vance and I in October at Disney World. So stay tuned. All the info's in this episode. You're going to love it. Let's dive in. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, the Wolf of Main Street, and this is Rooted in Retail. Vance, welcome to Rooted in Retail. I am thrilled you're here.
Thanks so much, Crystal. It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. We are talking a lot about experience, retention, loyalty today, and this is such a hot topic in the retail space, especially for independent retailers. But before we dive in, will you share a little bit more about you and your business journey?
Sure. Do you want me to go back to when I was a wee lad in a log cabin, or is that too far back?
Were you at a log cabin?
No. Luckily, my first job was with Disney, so it really set the stage for whatever I was going to do moving after that. I was with Mouse for a little over 10 years in the resort division. So I was on the opening team of the Yacht and Beach Club Resort, which was what an experience. I don't know if you've ever been on an opening team of something, but being on the opening team of a Disney thing is just like, holy cow. I was the duty manager on Pleasure Island. That was Disney's failed attempt at booze, debauchery, and scantily clad women. But it wasn't really failed because it was a cash cow. I mean, the markup on booze is just insane. Yep. But that was the first theme park that Disney had. This is pre 9/11. First theme park where they had Orange County sheriffs parked out front. So, yeah, exactly. Luckily, I was only there a few years, and then I was at the Contemporary. I was the food and beverage manager there. I was on the design team of a couple of their iconic restaurants, Chef Mickey's being one of them. So it's one of their character dining destinations. A lot of fun, a lot of pressure. We can talk about that later if it comes up in the conversation. I did leave Disney. People do leave. 10 years for me somewhere just felt like a really long time. So I had a contract with a couple of other restaurant concepts. I worked with Rainforest Cafe and Legal Seafoods on contracts to kind of help. They had great products. They didn't have great service. So they brought me in to really try and improve the experience and the service, especially Legal Seafoods. They don't have any where you are, but in the Northeast, especially in the Boston area, they were probably the number one freshest seafood you will ever find. But that was as far as it went. You got fresh seafood, and their kitchens were like, well, whichever piece is done first goes out. So if you were at a party of 6 and your piece of fish was done first, it came out.
Wow.
And then the next one, and then the next one. So if you ordered a 2-pound lobster that had to be steamed, you were out of luck. You sat there for a while. So we had a lot of things we had to work on.
Yeah.
Along the way, I was director of catering for Smithsonian Museum System. Phenomenal place to work. But the bad thing is that these were all jobs. And along the lines, I found I make a lousy employee. I don't like to be told what to do. So I think that's probably why a lot of us are business owners or entrepreneurs ourselves, is we just know we can do it better than, the boss or the board or whoever. So I got fired a couple of times, probably because I was asked my opinion and I actually gave it. You'll find I have no filter. So in 2007, started my own business, what every small boy dreams of doing, which is starting a carpet cleaning business. Started that, but I knew it was going to be a premium service. So I was taking all of my Disney knowledge, all of the systems, processes, customer experience, pricing strategies, and really packaging it in there and positioning it for an affluent market. And that model proved to work very well. Yes, there are, no offense to single wide trailer owners, but it's just not the market we were after. And so we were able to grow that. We added an Oriental rug washing facility to it. Then we added a mold remediation company to it. And along the way, people started asking me, how are you don't look like you're working too hard. How are you doing this? And I was like, well, this is really all systems and processes, because if you just have to manage the system, well, systems give you freedom. And so I've got a general manager now that runs those 3 businesses for me. I spend about 90 minutes a week in them. I cash checks, I kiss babies, and I meet with him every Friday morning. And honestly, systems do 2 things. One, as an employee, and this is what I learned at Disney, because Disney runs tremendously on systems,
right,
is that once you learn how to do the thing that you do, whether it's waiter in a restaurant or a valet, at a resort, once you understand the system and it's just kind of rote, it's memory, you now have freedom to do all of the nice things that Disney is known for. Mm-hmm. So you actually have brain capacity to take pictures and do autographs and, make people happy. So that's that kind of freedom. Then systems for business owners gives them the freedom that I have to essentially come and go from my business as I see fit or as I feel, without impacting sales or operations or anything. So the business doesn't rely on me to be there. And I mean, that was my goal. Everybody's got their own goal. But for me, that was mine. But I knew I was going to be doing something else, because I can't just sit around and drink beer and eat bonbons. So started coaching and consulting with companies, primarily on the customer experience, and which really leads into customer retention. Because if you don't have a good customer experience, you don't really have a prayer in retaining them. So
yeah,
and that brings us to today.
And we'll talk about an event we're doing together at Disney World a little bit later in the podcast, which I am so excited to.
Oh, you're teasing them, Crystal.
Oh, I'm totally teasing them. I'm totally teasing our listeners. But man, I can't wait to go. I love Disney. I can't wait to learn from you. And what you just said, to have that brain capacity to give you more of that time and space to make people happy and be with your customers. And that's so what our retailers want and love doing. And so they're going to learn so much in this podcast, as well as when we're together at Disney World. But let's dive in. I want to talk about retention, because many retailers struggle to turn first-time buyers into repeat customers. And a recent stat shows that only about 27% of first-time shoppers come back. So in your experience, what's the biggest mistake small business owners make when it comes to customer retention?
They don't do anything. They make the assumption that they did a good job, they had a good product, the service was fine, that the customer should just remember them. And I hate to break it to you, but that's just not the case. Maybe 50, 75 years ago, when there was little competition, people would remember you because you were the only drugstore in town. But that's just not the case these days. It is not the customer's job to remember you. It is your job to remind the customer that you exist. And so, in my home service businesses and the businesses I consult with, we put in a system, what I call the loyalty profit engine, which is very simple. but it is designed to do a couple of things. One, it's designed to create an emotional connection with the customers. And this is something that a lot of business owners, it makes them feel uneasy because emotions, that yucky, they don't want to do that. But it's vital. So a real quick story. My daughter used to do ballet when she was younger, when she was 5 years old. She'd go to the recital. She's in her tutu. I took a picture of her and I put it in my newsletter. And every year for her recital, I would put a picture of her in her tutu. And, she'd get older and older. And then when she's 17 now, so she's not cute anymore. I mean, she is, but.
Right. Right.
And we were in the grocery store one day and this woman came running up to us. She goes, "Oh my God, Emma, how was your recital?" And I mean, we're like ready to go run and hide in the frozen food section. And I had to think, she's got to be one of my clients. This woman has watched my child grow up through my newsletter.
Yeah.
I've created this emotional connection. She's never leaving me.
Nope.
Ever. And I have thousands of other people just like her. Now, maybe they're not all drooling over my daughter's ballet prowess, but you have to do what you can to create this. I mean, Disney is a master at creating these emotional connections. And you need to do this before you try to do another promotion to them. Because if the only time you ever hear from a business or a company is when they want money, well, that's not a relationship. That's a transaction.
Right.
So I'm a firm believer in doing some kind of retention tool like a newsletter. Maybe it's postcards. Maybe not a full blown newsletter. Maybe it's just one piece of paper printed on front and back, talking about life, talking about you, so that they get to know you as the independent business owner.
Right.
And within this, so I've been doing this now in my carpet business, I think we're up to year 14 now of doing a print newsletter.
Wow.
Consistently every month. I will never not do it. And I know people read it because we have one section that's called Stupid Criminal Stories. Yeah. And after about like 3 or 4 years, I was like, I'm tired of looking for these stories to put in the newsletter. And I said, people have got to be sick of this column anyway. So let's, put a recipe in there, a Sudoku puzzle or something. And so the 1 month I did not run it, we got phone calls. Where's the Stupid Criminal Stories?
Oh, how funny.
I'm like, well, at least I know people are reading the thing.
Right. Can I just pause on this newsletter for a second, Vance? Because I just feel like it's such a great idea that probably majority of independent retailers are not doing a printed newsletter that is personal. Like, I really, really doubt that they're doing it. We're building the relationship. Secondly, I just want to call out the fact that, because if there's anybody thinking nobody wants to hear from me or nobody wants that newsletter, like a carpet cleaning business, which is not glamorous at all, is sending out a newsletter consistently for 14 years that people are looking forward to, that call you when the feature is missing. So if a carpet cleaning business can do this, a retailer with product and trends and color and vibes could totally do this.
100%.
It's so smart. And then also, I guess I just want to know, logistically, are you writing that newsletter? Does your GM write that? How do you logistically do the newsletter?
Well, with the advent of AI, it's become a lot easier. I have a VA that'll curate the stories. I mean, it takes her about an hour. I mean, it's not very big, and they're all. If you remember Reader's Digest, it's like Reader's Digest light. There's little entertaining stories in there. There's nothing about carpet cleaning, I can tell you that,
right?
Because people just are not interested in carpet cleaning. They really aren't. So now maybe with retail, I mean, if you've got, clothing or shoes and you want to talk about fashion and things like that, or, start talking like a J. Peterman catalog. Yeah, that would be great for a retailer's newsletter. But for me, talking about carpet cleaning, nobody would read that. So
no,
I would dump it.
I know. Well, and I think too, with retailers, I think the key is, of course, you're adding value and you're personalizing. So to the point of the picture of your daughter, that's just that emotional connection. And then also having something that's sort of unique, like the criminals, or something that's fun. When you really understand your customer, adding that, I kind of call this the these moments that take us off course, that surprise us. We're like, oh, I was not expecting that. It becomes so memorable. And so there's just such opportunities. And of course, retailers can do this with a digital newsletter, but there is a lot of benefits in print. And actually, in a couple of weeks of when this drops, David Foley, who introduced us, is on the podcast, and we're talking about the power of print. So be sure to tune into that episode in a couple of weeks. But coming back to this tip,
David, I'm glad you've got him coming on, because he's, there's no competition in the mailbox anymore.
Right.
And you can't delete a print newsletter. I mean, you literally have to have the thing in your hands. You got to look at it, and you've got to make a conscious decision whether you're going to read it or throw it away. Mm-hmm. With email, I mean, you just look at the name and who it's from. Oh, delete.
Exactly.
It's so easy.
It's a weird energetic thing where I almost feel like there's value in this, like FOMO. Like I don't want to throw it away without at least cruising through it, a little bit. Where the email, I'm like annoyed. I have so many emails. I'm just delete. So That's such a good tip. And I love that you brought up the word emotion. So what I'm hearing you say is retention. They're just not even focusing on it. And one simple thing that they really could implement, because to your point, you could have somebody on your team, a VA that's curating, you use AI, you build your own custom bot that has your own voice. So it sounds like you, and boom, we're now top of mind staying in front of our customers to get them to come back.
Yep. 100%.
Love it. So good. Okay. Now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about mindset. You work with a lot of growth-minded entrepreneurs. So what mindset shift do you believe retailers must adopt if they want to stop competing on price and start building real loyalty?
Well, loyalty and price, I think take those separately, or maybe they go together. Mindset-wise, pricing issues are head trash of the business owner. And if you haven't been raising prices to at least the amount of inflation every year, I mean, you're already behind. So Get out there and do that. With price increases or pricing in general, you want to become a apples to oranges comparison. You don't want to be able to be compared to your competitor next door or down the street. And by this, I mean, say you both sell blue jeans, but when they walk into your store, there's an entire experience of, okay, well, here's the person greets you at the front door. It's not one of those annoying salespeople that just says, let me know if you need something, and then just follows you around like a ghost, but is, genuinely interested in, making sure that the fit is perfect. There's a foot store. I don't know if they are not a foot store, a shoe store that has this entire scripted out thing where they walk you over to this machine and it measures your feet and it measures your arches. I mean, it does all this stuff, and then it prints out this little report, and they have this whole dog and pony show to sell you a pair of sneakers.
Right.
Yeah. And they're sneaker. I mean, I could go on Amazon and buy them, but I don't get the whole printed report of my shoe. So can you do that in a retail store? Can you, everybody's hips are different. Their butts are different. Do you have some kind of proprietary measurement system when they walk in? Are you a little bit upscale and you now have on the counter sparkling and still water for people walking in on a hot day? And then how is the store laid out? The lighting, the music, everything, versus walking into the Gap. Oops, I'm sorry. Am I allowed to say that? And, it's very industrial. There's the stainless steel racks in the gutted strip mall. No experience. You're lucky to find anybody to help you. And that's why you can buy jeans for $12.99 versus going into a store that's offering an experience for $49.99. And I would like to think I clean carpet better than everybody else. But I know that my pricing right now is about 40% higher than my closest competitor. Do I clean 40% better? I'd like to think so, but I'm going to be honest with myself, probably not. But so what allows me to charge 40% more is that I become an apples to oranges comparison. So look at all of the things in your industry and come up with a list of things that you do that your competitors don't. So we have an entire checklist we'll give to people, and we'll say, look, if you can find another cleaner that does all of these things just like we do, I'll clean your carpet for free. Nobody can, because they might get 2 or 3 on the list, but they're not going to get all of them. And so figuring out a way to become apples to oranges is vital, especially in a highly commoditized industry, like retail, whether it be toys or clothing or what have you. And once you've created that experience and people have gone through it, and if the value was there, the price is not going to matter. It just kind of, I don't want to say it disappears, but it becomes irrelevant.
It does.
And people walk out with a good feeling. Now, if you're smart on the loyalty side, now they're on this big high. Oh my God, I just, I had these nice glasses of water. The lady, measured my hips and my butt and my everything. And I've got the perfect pair of jeans for my body. And, I was at the checkout counter and they said, this t-shirt would go perfect with those jeans. Oh my God, yes, you're right. Just throw it in the bag. I'll take it. And, by the way, we have this Fashion Monthly magazine. It's a free subscription. Would you like it? Oh my God, of course, because they're on that high of buying. Right? Exactly. Name and address, blah, blah, blah. We won't annoy you with an email. It's going to come in your mailbox, that. And now you got their address, which is vital. I can't tell you. I mean, I think I've had one retailer ever ask me for my mailing address.
No, it never happens.
Never happens. So right there, you're ahead of everybody. So don't call it a loyalty rewards program. Whatever you do, find some other term for it. But that experience leads to loyalty and retention because you have created this one over the top, what I call tellable, word of mouth experience. When people are done doing business with you, you want them to say, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened at insert your business here.
Exactly. They will be your viral sales soldiers. They'll be your sneezers. That's what I call them too. Like they just go around and they're just telling everybody about that experience and how they felt they had fun or they felt like they were cared for. And I noticed you said, don't call it a loyalty program or whatever. When you were doing your scenario here, you said our fashion trend magazine or, however you called it. And it was like, well, of course I want that. And it's free. Yeah. Like it just sounded so high value. Of course. Yes. Like you're the hero by asking me to give you my information. And it's really a way for that brand to just stay connected and sell even more. But that was such a great mindset shift of we're not doing apples to apples. We're really looking at how we're unique. And I think this is also such a great exercise for our listeners to do if you haven't spent this time of really, I call these your customer touch points, going through every single touch point. And are there opportunities for us to elevate those? How are we unique and really provide that experience? Love it.
Yeah, 100%.
So good, Vance. So good. Okay. We love stories on this podcast, which you've already given us some good ones. So can you share a specific example of a small business you've worked with that transformed their customer experience using Disney inspired strategies and what kind of results they saw?
Sure. I've got a bunch of them. So let's see. Do you want an oil change story or do you want a dentist story? Which one do you think will resonate more or do you want both?
I kind of feel like I need both.
All right. Well, we'll start with the dentist. And if you feel I've covered it, we'll skip the oil change. I do work with a lot of medical professionals, so orthodontists, dentists, etc. And as you know, they are highly commoditized. I mean, a dentist is a dentist is a dentist. There's only so many ways to clean teeth, the little brushy thing or the little squirty thing. And that's pretty much it. And she was one of 8 dentists in her building. Not even in her town, just in her building.
Wow.
And they were all the same. You couldn't tell one from the other. They all had beige walls. They all had their name on the door. They all took insurance. So everybody goes in. It's a $30 copay. There's no way to separate them. They were commoditized. And she was just exhausted. She goes, look, I'm not making what I thought I would make. I can't pay my student loans back. I got to change something or I'm getting out of this because this is not what I signed up for. And I don't even remember how we got connected, but we did some brainstorming and I said, well, let's tackle this price thing first. How are you going to get around insurance? The only way I can think of is don't take it. And she thought about it. She goes, wow, that's kind of scary. I was like, well, if you want to be able to command a premium price, you're going to have to get rid of insurance because insurance isn't going to pay more.
Right.
So she agreed to that. And I said, well, what kind of patients do you like to work with? And she says, I really like the young kids, the old people, not the old people, but, older people tend to complain and want to talk, and the kids just kind of sit there and do their thing. And I said, all right, well, what's unique about you? What do you like? What's your favorite movie? Something. She goes, oh, my favorite movie's Peter Pan. I said, all right, well, let's lay this out. So after we did some brainstorming and we did some strategies, and what we came up with is that she was going to be the pirate dentist.
Oh, boy.
And she dresses like Captain Hook.
No.
Her dental assistants all dressed like Mr. Smee. They walk around the office saying, arg. She only works with people under the age of 18. So once you turn 18, you got to go away. She did get rid of the insurance, which now she can charge her prices. But here's one of the big things. I mean, it was an immediate chunk to her bottom line. She had 2.5 team members. All their job was insurance billing.
Oh, wow.
She had almost $160,000 in salaries. Poof, gone, went right to the bottom line.
Yep.
She's got the boat. She disguised the chair. She put like a rowboat frame around it. She's got a shipwreck jungle gym in the waiting room. Kids love going there.
Amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God, we're going to the dentist. Yay. I mean, Who says that?
No one.
Who says that? Did she have some expenses to invest in this? Yeah. I mean, really, the only expense was the jungle gym and the waiting room. Everything else was costume. Right. So minimal expense. So it doesn't have to cost a lot to create these experiences and separate yourself from everybody else. And nobody's going to copy her. I mean, you'd look like an idiot if you tried to copy her.
Exactly. Yeah. If only there was a pirate dentist when I was a child. That sounds so freaking fun. And it's so memorable. And all those kids, that's like stories that they're all going to share as they get older, when they have spouses, then when they have kids. Guess what, kids, where I used to go, like, you just can't put a price tag on that kind of value you're bringing your customers and those experiences. Yep. Okay, tell us about the oil changing company.
All right. When you sat down at dinner the other night with your family, have you ever had the conversation, you'll never guess what happened at the oil change today?
No,
that conversation nobody has that conversation. I've got a client who's got 4, like a Jiffy Lube, Quick Lube, I guess it's a service station. But he competes against those other guys, and he was getting beat up by the coupons. Every time, one of those guys ran a coupon, he had to drop his price, and it was just a race to the bottom. And, there is no competitive advantage to being second cheapest. So he felt he had to go be the cheapest, which was, eroding his employees were exhausted because, they were just churning people, all the time. And so we had the same strategy session. I said, well, you don't want to be the lowest anymore. How about you go the other direction? Let's be the highest price. And he was like, well, this isn't working. So that must have to work. And so we redesigned his oil change stations to like a old 1950s service station. So 4 guys will run out, and they got little bow ties and white shirts and gloves. They open the door for you. One guy squeegees the windshield. Another guy checks the air pressure. They escort you into the waiting room. And in the waiting room is not 3-day-old stale coffee. There's actually a barista in there making your favorite coffee drink. Wow. And the barista is one of the oil change technicians because they rotate throughout the week. So they loved it. The techs love doing this coffee thing, which I thought it was going to be difficult to convince them, but they're like, no, we love making coffee. Okay. I think he's charging close to 75% more than the Jiffy Lube, literally 2 doors down from his service station. Now, here are the ancillary benefits. Obviously, he's more profitable, but he's serving less people, which is fine, but he's serving a better clientele, people that appreciate the experience and the level of service that he's providing. Yep. There's less wear and tear on his building. There's less wear and tear on his employees. His employee retention has shot up. He said, Vance, I don't even remember how to do an interview. It's been so long since I've had to hire somebody. Wow. I was like, well, you might want to bone up on those skills. Somebody's going to need to be checked. And so now people will say, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened at the oil change today.
Exactly.
I got my favorite coffee. It was better than Starbucks,
And to share,
so that cost, other than the coffee machine, the investment in that was nothing.
wow. Small, simple tweaks, but really figuring out the experience and the identity and the customer you want to serve. I mean, these are such good lessons. I hope our listeners' brains are just turning right now with creativity and sparking a lot of ideas for them, because there's so much opportunity, especially when you have a brick and mortar. This is harder for e-com when you're providing the experience online. And most of our listeners are physical storefronts, so they just have such the advantage, and it's harder for big boxes to do those things. So this is where our independence, love that you shared both of those examples. So good.
Well, real quick on e-commerce, while the online experience can sometimes be, difficult to turn into a wow. One thing you have to watch out for are the unwows, or the things that we all call the service or sales prevention department, which are links that don't work, things that lead to a 404 page, all the stuff that just frustrates a buyer and will send them somewhere else. But where you can create experiences is in the packaging that you ship. Are you going to ship it like Amazon does in the plain brown cardboard? Or are you going to make the unboxing of your product an experience? So It can be done with e-commerce.
That's true. There are certainly ways to do it. And I want to give a plug to Julie's episode. It was a few weeks ago when this dropped, Mid-Atlantic Packaging. She can help you with new packaging, and she has some fun ideas on that episode. But you're absolutely right. There are some things you can do. I just love the in-person, having that connection. It's just so powerful and meaningful if you make it that way. And our retailers so can. All right, Vance. Let's talk about practical magic. What's one small thing retailers can do today, something simple but impactful to elevate their customer experience?
Answer the telephone. I kid you not. Answer the phone. This is universal. I'll come up with another one in a second, but this one, I can't tell you the number of businesses that don't answer their phone live. They either let it go to voicemail, or, they'll let it ring 5 or 6 times and then finally get to it. Or by the time they return the phone call, the customer's going on to somebody else already. Right. I'm a partner in a call center. We called 4,000 home service businesses. So electricians, plumbers, carpet cleaners, etc. 16% answered the phone live.
Whoa.
We got the phone numbers from Google pay-per-click. So these businesses are all paying to have their phone number published, and they're not answering the phone.
Wow.
So not only is it a customer experience thing, but it's also, what are you, an idiot? You're just giving Google money? Come on.
Yeah.
And having it answered by a live person is going to be the differentiator, and is going to be the competitive advantage for businesses moving forward now that we got all these AI bots and all this stuff. And even if you do have a bot answering the phone, your first option has got to be speak to a human.
Yes.
It can't be option number 17. It's got to be option number 1.
Seriously, I hate that. You're like, okay, here we go. Then I really have to pay attention to the options. Then I'm waiting forever. Yes. Oh, it's so simple.
Please pay attention. Our options have changed.
Yeah, exactly. No. Okay, that's an easy thing that everybody.
So that's an easy one.
Yes.
But I would look at your entire customer journey, as you mentioned earlier. The different points of contact, and identify one that's going to have the most impact or most bang for your buck in your business by changing it or improving it. By that, I mean, since we're talking about the telephone, let's say how you answer the telephone.
Right.
So I worked with an insurance guy down somewhere in one of the southern states. He was an all-state insurance guy, and there's a lot of other insurance agents. It was a city, and there were a lot of other all-state agents in the city. So he, again, highly commoditized and couldn't separate himself from anybody else. So we're doing a team meeting, And this guy already had a persona. He loved rock and roll. I mean, he had gold records on the wall, autographed guitars, posters, and everything. So, he had the persona. So, all right, well, how do we get this out there? One of his employees came up with this idea. Most places you'll call, it's thank you for calling Dave's Allstate, the agent, how may I help you? And everybody answers the phone that way. Well, the young lady who suggested this and she was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. If I could have hired her away from him, I would have. But she goes, well, why don't we do something with the rock and roll theme? And I said, all right, go ahead, have at it. She goes, thank you for calling Dave's Allstate, the agency that rocks.
Yes. Perfect.
Boom, done, mic drop, whatever you want to call it. Now, it sounds corny the first 16 times you say it, but you get used to it.
Uh-huh.
So remember, your marketing is supposed to do two things: attract the people you want to do business with and repel the people you don't. And just by answering the phone that way, they're sifting, sorting, and screening out anybody that would be a bad client.
For sure. Hands down.
They're not wasting time with people that would just be a bad client. They're like, oh, wow, this guy doesn't really take himself too seriously. Sounds like fun. Yeah, let me go meet this rock and roll guy. And now he is no longer in a sea of sameness. He's elevated above the fray, and he's the rock and roll insurance guy.
Yes. Oh man, I love that. So let's answer our phones. Let's be strategic on what we're saying. This is a very practical, easy tip. And the sea of sameness. We don't want to be in the sea of sameness. And I think a lot of small businesses are. So let's get out of that. Let's be memorable. That's so good. What if 3 days could change the way you lead your store forever? On October 6th, 7th, and 8th, we're gathering at Disney World. Yes, Disney World, for something rare, powerful, and intimate. And I hope you can join us. This is the Rooted in Retail 3-day Disney World experience, and it's going to be magical. This isn't just a business event. It's a masterclass in wonder-fueled leadership, a deep dive into the systems, stories, and service standards that makes Disney, Disney, and how you can take that same magic and infuse it into every corner of your store. Here's what makes this so special. You get to step behind the curtain of the most beloved brand in the world and learn how to lead, serve, and create moments that matter, not just transactions. You get to rediscover wonder as a strategy, because the best retailers don't just sell, they stir emotion, build belonging, and design unforgettable experiences. You get to leave with a spark, a new standard, a clearer vision, and a fire in your belly that says, let's build something legendary. This is about transformation, no tips, not more to-dos, but a return to what really matters in your store and letting that lead. Tickets are extremely limited. This is a high-touch, intimate event. If you feel pulled to join us, trust that pull. This is so special, and I cannot wait to do this with our group of retailers. The tickets include 3 nights hotel, park tickets to Magic Kingdom and Epcot, most of your food, special experiences, the education and frameworks, coaching calls after the experience, and more. So head to rootedinretail.com/Disney. That's rootedinretail.com/Disney to learn more and secure your ticket. Very limited seating on this one. And I hope to create some magic with you at Disney in October. All right, let's get back to this episode. All right. Vance, before we go into the resilience round, will you share a little bit of what attendees can expect? Because we have a 3-day Disney World experience in October 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I cannot wait for this, but this is something that you've been doing. I am coming with you to be a part of it and experience the magic. And so will you share what this magic is, what we're going to experience over these 3 days?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Well, first and foremost, for any of your listeners or members that don't get a chance to meet with you, they're going to be up close and personal with Crystal. So you get Crystal one-on-one for 3 days,
yes.
And that's important. Yeah. I mean, when you have events like this, to be in a small group with the guru is extremely valuable. So I hope anybody who's doing this takes advantage, well, don't accost her, but, takes advantage of being around Crystal because the opportunity is probably not going to present itself anytime soon.
Right.
But yeah, so we'll be at Disney for 3 days. This is a boot camp style, so it's a workshop. We will spend half the time in the classroom where I will go over strategies and tactics on how to create experiences and retention. It's all based off of my 7 magic keys to Disneyfying your business. It's called Systematic Magic. And it's all of my experiences from Disney and what I've done throughout the rest of my career packaged up into this little program. So once we're done with the classroom part, we're going to go out into the theme parks and I'm going to do a guided tour and we're going to go look for all of the stuff that we just talked about and really see it in action. And my job really for the 3 days is to translate what you're seeing at Disney into your business or niche. So into a retail environment. How does Disney do this and how do we translate it there? Yep. Now, the good news is Disney's got a ton of stores, so
no kidding.
We're going to really be able to dissect and look at how Disney sets up their stores, how they, move the lines, how they set up the merchandise, where the impulse items are, really look at it, not from a tourist point of view, but from a business point of view.
Yeah.
We've got a number and we're going to do that. And then we do that for 2 days. We're going to Epcot one day. We're going to Magic Kingdom the other day and spend the time in a classroom. At the end of it, the design of it is for you to have a blueprint on how you're going to Disneyfy your business when you get home Monday morning. And then the follow-up is you get 90 days of coaching with both Crystal and myself to keep you on track and keep the momentum going. We've also organized some experiences. I don't want to give them away, but to say the least, they are over the top. Disney doesn't even offer these. I created it with one of the chefs, this one experience that we'll have on the first night. And Disney doesn't sell it. You won't be able to find it anywhere else. It is truly once in a lifetime. It will blow you away. So.
Oh my goodness. I am so excited. I wish we were going tomorrow. I cannot wait for this event. I know a little bit about this special event that you just mentioned. That's going to be so cool. I can't wait. But man, to just immerse yourself, that's something that I'm really excited about this, getting out of your business. Every time that I leave my business, often when I'm traveling, I get better solutions, more energy, more inspiration, and to be taken through this framework and meet other awesome retailers. It's just going to be such a magical experience. So I cannot wait, Vance.
Yeah. And the nuts and bolts of it are just about everything is included. So
exactly.
So we're staying at the top resort. We're staying at the Grand Floridian. So we're not staying at some podunk Howard Johnson's or something like that. And, so your hotel's covered. All of your food is covered, park tickets, all of the training. We're going to get you around transportation wise within the park. The only thing you got to do is get there.
Exactly.
Other than that, it's an all-inclusive event.
Exactly. All-inclusive event plus our coaching. You can go to rootedinretail.com/Disney to learn more and to secure your seat. We're also limited. We have 40 seats available. We've already sold. I think we're almost half sold out as the time that we're filming.
Over half. You're close to 60%.
Yeah. 60%. Okay. So we want to see you there. So go to rootedretail.com/Disney. Learn more, join Vance and I. And I think the fun is the bonus. I think we're going to just have so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Vance, are you ready for the resilience round?
I think so. I briefly looked at the question, so hopefully you won't stump me here. Go ahead.
Okay. Best business book.
The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy.
Ooh, good one. Awesome. Best retail technology, like an app or software.
Well, that's not fair. I'm not in retail.
I know.
The telephone.
Yeah. Hey, that works very well. Perfect. Great answer. Now, this is also very retail specific. How do you keep up with the ever-changing retail landscape? We can also change that to small business landscape.
No, I think it applies to everybody. Okay. And that is really being plugged in, whether it be to groups like yours and really being plugged into people who know what they're doing, attending masterminds, attending conferences, ingesting as much as you can from not only associations, but getting on your competitors' lists, seeing what your competitors are doing, getting on the lists of larger retailers and seeing how they're done. I mean, I mentioned Jay Peterman earlier. I mean, they're absolutely brilliant in their copywriting when they're selling their stuff. So yeah, those are definitely some strategies to keep your head in the game.
Yep. Those are awesome. Love it. If you had to start your business all over again, what's one thing you'd do different?
I would not run double truck ads in the yellow pages. I would listen to myself. Honestly, I would not listen to the salespeople of the media that we're buying from. I would have listened to myself and said, okay, where do my customers hang out? What do they read? What do they see? And base my media purchases on that, because I didn't need to waste that much money on stuff that I didn't need to waste money on. So,
yep. I bet some of our listeners can agree with that as well. Vance, what do you think the future of independent retail looks like?
I think it is strong. If you look at what Barnes & Noble has announced recently, I mean, everything's coming down to the local level. They've given so much additional control to the local level to, how the store is designed, what their offerings are. It is, I think, they're communities now within themselves. I was at a conference last week and there was a independent bookstore that was one of the vendors there. And I mean, they're having book signings and poetry readings and guests, and people they're coming there as like, that's the community place to hang out. Right. And I don't think it matters what you sell, but you can create community around your store or around your building, whatever it is, not just about selling your stuff, but getting people into the community and really getting engaged. I think, is it all going to be on Main Street? Maybe, but is there going to be a powerful presence of independent retailers? I don't see it going away. I really don't. If you create emotional connections and you build the systems to retain them. Otherwise, you're out of luck.
Yep. Well said. Vance, how can people connect with you and learn more?
Best ways through my website, vancemorris.com.
Amazing. This was such a fun conversation, Vance.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to chat with you, Crystal.
Yeah. Awesome. Vance, I will see you in October at Disney World. We're going to have the best time. And everyone, remember that I'm rooting for your success. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Rooted in Retail podcast. It means the world to me to have you here. If you find value in this show and you listen on an iPhone, if you could leave a review on the Apple Podcast app, that would be amazing. And if you watch YouTube, if you're a YouTube subscriber, we film this. And so if you rather watch the show, you can also do that over on YouTube. Again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.